Traditionally, a plaintiff who sued a defendant based on negligence could only recover damages for emotional distress if the plaintiff could prove an accompanying physical injury. But what exactly is proof of an accompanying physical injury? In Bosley v. Andrews, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court considered whether a plaintiff could recover for emotional distress based on coronary problems suffered due to being chased by a bull. Husband and wife Oliver and Mary Louise Bosley owned a farm in Pennsylvania. At the same time, Dale Andrews owned an adjacent farm where he raised cattle. On April 10, 1950, Andrews's cattle broke through a fence on his farm, strayed onto the Bosleys' farm, and damaged their crops. As the Bosleys' daughter and grandson attempted to drive Andrews's cattle off the property with their dog by their side, Mrs. Bosley walked over to assist them. As Mrs. Bosley approached her daughter and grandson, a bull began charging at her. Bosley's daughter yelled to warn her mother of the danger that she was in. Mrs. Bosley turned her head, saw the bull, started to run, and then collapsed. Fortunately, the bull stopped about 25 feet away when it was diverted by the dog. In fact, the bull never touched or physically harmed Mrs. Bosley. According to her doctors, Mrs. Bosley had coronary artery disease before the incident. The incident didn't cause her to collapse, but was the trigger mechanism of her symptoms. Subsequently, the Bosleys sued Andrews in the Court of Common Pleas for trespass and negligence, seeking damages for their loss of crops and emotional damages for Mrs. Bosley's fright and heart disability. The case went to trial, and a jury returned a verdict for the Bosleys on their trespass claim. However, the court directed a verdict for Andrews on the Bosleys' negligence claims due to a lack of proof of an accompanying physical injury. The Bosleys appealed to the state superior court, which affirmed the judgments of non-suit. The Bosleys then appealed to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court.